The cry beneath the rusted dock. The sky above was dark red, and the wind carried the smell of rust and smoke. David, a human explorer, walked through the ruins of an old alien city. Everything was broken. Buildings torn apart, streets filled. With metal bones and silence everywhere, David wasn't supposed to be here long. He came to search for old tech, maybe something valuable. But he heard something strange, a sound that didn't belong. A cry. Faint. Soft. Like someone crying in pain or fear. David stopped walking. He listened again. The cry came from below. Under the broken dock nearby, he moved slowly. His boots stepped on old metal plates. The crying grew clearer. He held his weapon close and went down the crooked stairs. What he found under the dock shocked him. A woman, clearly alien, sat in the shadows. Her silver-blue skin was dirty, her long black hair tangled. She held two small children close to her chest. Both kids looked thin, tired, and hungry. One child was sleeping and the other was whimpering softly. The woman looked up at David. Her eyes glowed green, bright even in the darkness. She did not beg. She did not scream. She simply whispered, "Are you human?" David nodded slowly. She took a deep breath and said something that surprised him. "Please, adopt my children." David's heart skipped a beat. "What?" Her voice cracked. "They are starving. They have not eaten in 2 days. I have nothing left, not even hope." David stepped closer. "Who are you?" "My name is Malia. I was a wife. Now I'm only a mother. My mate died in the war. I ran. I survived. And they punished me for that." She moved her cloak and showed David a mark on her shoulder, burned deep into her skin. It was black and cruel. "This is the soldra, a mark given to those who are rejected. My people say I should have died with my husband. They say I am a shame." David looked at the children. Their eyes were dull, but they still held on to their mother. They were scared, but they trusted her. He knelt down and reached into his bag. He took out a protein bar and a water pack. "Here, for the kids." The woman didn't touch the food. She looked at her children and gently nodded. The boy took the bar and shared it with his sister. "Thank you," she said softly. "You didn't have to stop. Most people don't even look at us anymore." David sat beside them. "You're not junk. You're a family." Malia shook her head. "No, we are ghosts. No one wants a widow with a shame mark. No one wants homeless children. Our own people chased us away. I have been hiding here for many days." David's eyes narrowed. "There's no one helping you?" She looked down. "No, I thought death would come before help." There was silence for a moment. Then Malia looked straight at David. "You are the first living soul to speak to me with kindness. That is why I ask. Take them. They deserve better." David's voice was firm. "I won't leave you here." She blinked. "But why?" He looked at her and said, "Because no one deserves to die forgotten, and your children need their mother." Her lips trembled. She didn't cry, but her body shook from the cold and hunger. David took off his coat and put it around her. "You'll come with me," he said. "I know a safe place outside the city. I'll build shelter, share food." She didn't answer right away. Then she gave a slow nod. "You are different, human. Thank you." David helped her stand. She held her daughter and David lifted the boy. The children didn't protest. They leaned into him as if they had known him for years. As they stepped out into the broken street, David glanced around. Something felt off. Up on a rooftop far behind them, a small drone floated in the shadows. Its red sensor light blinked once, silently. It had been watching the whole time. Recording. A home in the dust. The desert wind blew softly across the ruins. David stood on a hill made of broken metal and ash, hammering old pipes together. He had found an abandoned water tank and turned it into a small shelter. It wasn't much, but it was dry, safe, and hidden. Malia sat nearby on a flat rock. Her silver-blue skin looked pale under the orange sky. She gently combed dust from her daughter's hair using her fingers. Her son sat beside her holding a cracked toy David had given him. This was not a home, but it was the first roof they had slept under in many days. David returned with a few supplies, mostly rations and a heat pack. He handed a small foil-wrapped bar to Malia. "It's not real food, but it'll fill your stomach." She looked at him, then broke it in half. She gave the bigger piece to her children. David sat down on the other side of the fire. "You always feed them first." "They are my heart," she said quietly. There was silence for a moment, broken only by the wind and the soft chewing of two small mouths. Then David asked, "Why did they mark you?" Malia looked at the flames. "Because I lived." He frowned. "You already told me that." She sighed. "There's more. The truth is worse." She pulled her cloak aside and pointed to the burned mark on her shoulder. "This mark doesn't just mean shame, it means I can never return, not to any city, not to any village, not even to the grave of my husband. I am banned across 5 moons. David stared at her, shocked. "All that because you survived?" She looked at him. "Because I refused to die when the elders said we must. I took my children and ran. They said it was betrayal." David's fists clenched. "Your people sound like monsters." Malia shook her head. "No, they are not monsters. They are just trapped in old laws, in honor, in pride. They fear weakness. And a mother running with children? That is weakness to them." David threw a stone into the dirt. "Then maybe they should fear humans instead." Malia tilted her head. "Why did you help us, David? You don't even know me." He looked up at the sky, stars beginning to appear. "Because the moment I saw you holding those kids, I saw something I couldn't walk away from. It didn't matter what species you were a mother. And they were hungry." Malia didn't say anything, but her eyes shined. That night, the children curled up inside the tank shelter. David stayed outside, sitting against the wall, his rifle beside him. Malia came out, quietly, and sat near him. "I'm not used to silence anymore," she said. "For weeks it was only crying and fear." He nodded. "Silence is better than screams." She looked at him. "You speak like someone who's lost things too." David didn't respond right away. Then he said, "I lost my brother in a fire. Long ago. I couldn't save him." Malia placed her hand gently on his arm. "Then maybe saving us is how you heal." Far above in the sky, a drone floated in silence. It zoomed in on the small campfire, marking heat signatures. Then it blinked, sent a signal, and vanished behind a broken spire. Deep in space, a ship received the data. The signal read, "Widow found, human companion detected, prepare interception." The next morning, the little girl ran into David's arms. "I dreamed you were our real papa." David smiled gently. "Maybe dreams know the truth before we do." Malia watched them from a distance. Her heart ached in a new way, not from fear, not from hunger, but from something she had forgotten she could feel. Hope. The mark of rejection. The sun rose slowly, casting golden light across the broken city. Malia stood alone at the edge of a dry cliff. Below her, sharp metal ruins stretched for miles, like the bones of a dead beast. The wind brushed her long black hair behind her. Her cloak danced in the cold morning air. She didn't speak. She just stared into the dust. Behind her, David watched silently. He could feel her sadness. He had seen that look before, in soldiers, in survivors, in the mirror. "Malia," he said gently, "you don't have to hide anymore." She turned slowly. "I am not hiding, I am remembering." David walked up beside her. "Then remember with me." Later that morning, David and Malia sat under the shelter, the children nearby building little towers with scrap metal. David took out a medical scanner to check the boy's fever. As he worked, he asked quietly, "Tell me the truth, Malia. Why did they mark you like that? Why do they hate you so much?" Malia looked at her children for a long time, then slowly pulled her sleeve down and turned her back toward David. "This," she said, pointing to the deep burn on her shoulder, "is not just a shame mark. It is called the talgir, the mark of the rejected mother." David looked closely. The scar formed a cruel symbol. 3 sharp lines crossing over a circle. It looked painful, raw, and permanent. "They gave this to me after the war," she said. "Not because I ran. Not just because I lived, but because of what I refused to do." David asked, "What do you mean?" Malia took a breath. "When our colony was under attack, the elders gave a final command. Leave the weak behind, save the warriors. I was told to leave my children." David's face twisted in disbelief. "They ordered you to abandon your own kids?" She nodded. "I refused. I took them and ran. That was my crime." David was silent for a long time. "They told me I was selfish, that a mother who chooses her children over the colony is no mother at all." He stood up slowly, trying to calm the anger rising in his chest. "That's not selfish, that's what a mother is supposed to do." Malia looked away. "To them, duty is bigger than love. Honor is more important than life." David stepped closer and said, "Then their honor is worthless." She looked back at him, surprised. He knelt beside her and said, "You didn't fail. You didn't break. You did the bravest thing any parent could do. You protected your children when everyone else gave up." That night, Malia took something out of her pouch, a small black stone with a single red line across it. "This belonged to my mate," she said. "He gave it to me before his final mission. It was his token of bond. We call it a Varn stone." David nodded. "What does it mean?" She stared at it. "It means I will return or you will carry me forward." She placed it gently on the ground between them. "I never thought I'd show this to anyone again." David looked into her glowing green eyes. "Then I'm honored you did." The children slept close together inside the shelter. David and Malia sat outside, the stars blinking above like slow teardrops in the sky. She whispered, "Sometimes I wonder if my people will ever stop hunting me. If they'll ever stop seeing me as a threat." David replied, "You're not a threat to them, Malia. You're a mirror. You remind them of what they lost, and what they never had the courage to protect." She looked down. "And you, David? Why do you stay?" He answered simply, "Because someone needs to tell you the truth, that you're not broken, you're rare, you're right." Malia closed her eyes for a moment and smiled. Far above, in the black of space, a red alert blinked on a hunter ship. The drone had locked onto Malia's exact location. A voice crackled on the comms. "Target confirmed. Widow Malia and 2 offspring. Human contact confirmed. Prepare for ground engagement." The hunters were coming, and they weren't coming to talk. The city that hates the weak. The wind had changed. It smelled different now. Less like dust, more like danger. David noticed it first as they neared the edge of the ruins. He held up a hand. "Stop. Something's not right." Malia stood behind him with her children. Her son clutched her hand, and her daughter hid behind her cloak. They were close now, just a few hundred meters from the alien outpost. The only place nearby with supplies, the only place that might help them, but also the only place Malia swore she'd never return to. David glanced down the narrow path into the trade center. The buildings there still stood, tall, rust-colored towers, with flickering lights and steel banners that moved in the breeze. A few aliens walked between market stalls. Guards stood at corners with stun spears. David turned to Malia. "We need food, medicine, water. It's our only option." Malia's voice was flat. "They will spit on us, maybe worse." "I won't let them hurt you," he said. She pulled her hood low. "They don't need to touch me." Their words cut deeper. As they entered the outpost, voices dropped. Heads turned. A human? Here? But what really caught their attention was who he was with. A widow. And not just any widow. One with the soldier mark. The shame mark. The Cursed Mother. David tried to walk with confidence. He moved toward a vendor selling ration packs. "I need food and medical gel." The old alien behind the stall looked at David, then at Malia. He sneered. "She's with you?" David nodded. The vendor spat. "Then take your cursed woman and leave. We don't serve traitors." David's jaw tightened. "She has children. They're starving." "Let them starve," another voice said behind him. David turned. A tall alien in black armor walked up, flanked by two others. His eyes glowed orange. "You walk with disgrace," the armored alien growled. "Why?" "She saved lives," David said calmly. "And I protect people like that." "She broke the sacred law," the man barked. "You dishonor your species by standing beside her." David stepped forward. "Then maybe your law is the problem." The armored alien grinned cruelly. "We should put that to the test." He drew his blade, long, curved, sharp. But before he could strike, a loud metallic voice interrupted. "Enough!" An old merchant with a single silver eye stepped forward. He wore torn robes and leaned on a metal cane. "I remember this widow," he said. "She saved my granddaughter during the fire, while your warriors ran." He looked at David and tossed a small pack of supplies to his feet. "Take it, then leave. This place has no soul left to offer." David picked up the pack. "Thank you." The merchant looked at Malia. "You are not the one who should carry shame." Malia gave a small bow, holding back tears. They turned to go. But as they walked away, the armored alien hissed, "She's marked. No place will ever want her. She belongs in the dirt." David stopped. Slowly, he turned his head. "No," he said. "She belongs with me." And then he walked away without looking back. Back at their shelter that night, the children were quiet. Malia sat on a rock holding a cup of warm broth David had made. She hadn't spoken in an hour. David sat across from her. "You were right," he said. "That place was poison." She stared into the fire. "It always was." He leaned closer. "But I saw something. Even with all their hate, there was one man who remembered your kindness." She didn't respond. He added, "You're not forgotten, not anymore." Malia looked at him finally. "When I stood in that market, I felt like I was back in the trial chamber, the day they burned my mark into my skin." Her hand touched the scar through her sleeve. David said nothing. He just reached out, took her hand, and squeezed gently. "You're not on trial anymore," he said. "You're free and you're not alone." High above them, a ship floated in the clouds. Inside, red lights blinked. The hunter commander read the signal. "Widow located. Human confirmed. Ground contact imminent," he smiled behind his helmet. "She chose a human over her people, then she dies with him. The lonely stars know her truth." The fire crackled quietly. Above them, the sky was full of cold stars, glowing softly like 1,000 watching eyes. Malia sat beside the fire, her cloak wrapped around her shoulders. Her children were asleep inside the shelter, safe and warm. David sat across from her, carefully checking his weapon. They had food now, medicine, a little peace. But something inside her still felt broken. David noticed the faraway look in her eyes. "You're not really here," he said softly. Malia blinked. "I'm here." "No," he said. "Your body is here. Your mind is still back in that city. Back in the past." Malia looked into the fire. "You're right," she said. "I carry ghosts." David waited. Then Malia reached into a hidden pocket inside her cloak. She pulled out a small black crystal no bigger than her palm. It shimmered faintly in the firelight. "What's that?" David asked. "My husband's memory stone," she said. "He left it with me before his final mission. I've never activated it. I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" David asked. She stared at the stone. "Afraid it would prove I failed him, that I wasn't strong enough to deserve his last words." David's voice was gentle. "Do you want to hear it now?" She held the stone tight, then gave a slow nod. David came over and sat beside her. Together, they pressed the stone. A warm glow lit up, and a voice spoke. Malia, my heart, if you are hearing this, I am gone. Her hands trembled. I fought with all my strength, but if I fell, I did it to give you and the children a chance. Tears ran silently down her face. They will call you weak. Let them. They do not understand the courage it takes to carry life instead of taking it. You were never weak. You were always better than them. David sat still, eyes wide. Live, Malia. Live for our children. Find peace. If anyone ever sees you, as less, they are blind. The stone dimmed and fell silent. Malia didn't speak. She curled forward and wept. David wrapped his arm around her, letting her cry without shame. After a while, she whispered, I thought I failed him. David replied, You honored him. You carried his love through fire and ash. And you never gave up. Malia looked at the stars. I feel like I can breathe for the first time in years. Later that night, the children woke. They saw David and Malia sitting together and smiled. The little girl asked, Mama, why are you crying? Malia knelt down and kissed her forehead. I was carrying sadness, little star. But now, I think I'm starting to let it go. At sunrise, David climbed a rocky cliff nearby to scout the horizon. What he saw made his blood run cold. 3 shadows in the sky. Sleek, black, fast, hunter ships. He ran back to camp. We need to move, now. Malia's smile faded. They've found us. David nodded. I saw their ships, they're coming fast. She looked at her children. I won't run again. We don't have to, David said. He pulled out a small device from his backpack. This is a human emergency beacon, I've never used it. She stared at him. You had that this whole time? He nodded. Didn't want to attract attention. But now I want all the attention. He pressed it. The device blinked red. Far above, in human-controlled space, a signal lit up. Distress call, human plus civilians under attack. Response time 14 minutes. Back at the camp, Malia stood tall. She no longer hid her mark. She no longer bowed her head. She strapped a small knife to her leg and said, If they come, they will see the mother who refused to die. David looked at her proudly. And they'll regret it. High in the clouds, the hunter ships began to descend. Their commander's voice echoed inside the ship. Bring her alive. Kill the human if needed. No mercy. Malia held her children one last time before placing them in the back of the shelter. She looked at David. No matter what happens, thank you for seeing me. Not as a shame. Not as a burden. But as a mother. He touched her cheek. You are more than that, Malia. You're a warrior. She smiled softly. I'm ready now. The ones who hunt the widow. The sky was no longer quiet. It screamed. 3 black hunter ships broke through the clouds, their engines roaring like angry beasts. Dust exploded from the cliffs as they descended toward the old ruins where Malia and David had made their camp. Inside one of the ships stood a tall alien in silver-black armor. Commander Jacques. He stared at the live feed sent by their drone. Malia, her human protector, and 2 small alien children. He growled. She carries the mark of Soldra, he said. She should have died years ago. Another soldier asked, What about the human? Commander Jacques' voice was cold. If he stands with her, he dies as one of them. Down below, David watched the sky darken. The children hid inside the shelter, clutching each other. Malia stood at the cave entrance, wind tugging at her cloak, face sharp with focus. They're here, she said. David nodded. I counted, 10 heat signatures dropping from each ship, 30 soldiers. Maybe more. Malia's voice didn't shake. Then we make them count each step. David reached into his gear and handed her a pulse grenade. Can you use this? She activated it without even blinking. I led squads during the war. I was not just a mother, I was a fighter. He looked at her with respect. I believe you now more than ever. She gave a faint smile. I believe in me now too. The first squad of hunters landed outside the canyon. Their black armor gleamed and their weapons buzzed with energy. They moved in silence like shadows trained to kill. One soldier sent a message. We've found the shelter, engaging now. But before they could move, boom! A hidden mine exploded beneath their feet, sending fire and rock into the air. David and Malia launched the attack from above. David's rifle fired blue bolts. Malia threw the pulse grenade. It bounced once, twice, and then, flash. It lit the canyon like a small sun. 5 hunters dropped instantly. The rest scrambled for cover. Inside the shelter, the children shook, holding hands. The little girl whispered, "Will Mama win?" The boy said quietly, "Mama always wins." Back outside, Malia moved like a shadow, darting from rock to rock, blade in one hand, stolen rifle in the other. She took down 2 more hunters, one with a shot, one with a knife. David covered her from above, shouting warnings and directions. 3 to your left, incoming from the ridge. Malia rolled and dove, shooting up at the ridge and hitting one square in the chest. The battle was chaos. But something was wrong. David's emergency beacon was still blinking, but no help had come yet. Commander Jacques dropped into the canyon, himself. He stepped over the bodies of his soldiers and marched toward the battle without fear. Malia saw him and froze. She remembered him. He was my commander once, she said to David, breath shaking. He gave the order to leave the children behind. I disobeyed. Jacques' voice echoed across the rocks. Soldra, you disgrace your people again by hiding behind a human. Step out and face your justice. Malia stepped forward. I am not hiding, she said. I'm standing for what matters, Jacques growled. Then die for it. He charged. The fight was brutal. Jacques was bigger, stronger, and faster. Malia blocked his strikes with her blade but stumbled as he slammed into her. David fired from above, hit Jacques in the side, but the armor held. Jacques knocked Malia down and raised his blade for the final blow. Bang! A sniper shot echoed. Through the canyon, Jacques' shoulder exploded in sparks. He roared in pain and fell back. David looked up. Human dropships were finally breaking through the clouds. Reinforcements. Human soldiers landed fast. Clean armor, high-tech rifles. In seconds, they surrounded the remaining hunters. The tide turned instantly. The hunters were outnumbered, outgunned, and shocked. They fled. Jacques was dragged away by 2 of his warriors, his armor sparking. When the dust settled, David rushed to Malia's side. She was bleeding but alive. You okay? He asked. Malia smiled weakly. You called your people. He nodded. I told you, you're not alone anymore. That night the children slept in real beds aboard the human medical ship. David sat beside Malia, who now wore clean clothes and had her wounds treated. She looked at him. You risked everything for us. He replied, You did that for your children before I ever met you. I just followed your example. She took his hand. I want you to stay, not just as a protector, but as something more. David squeezed her hand. I was hoping you'd say that. The vow beneath alien skies. The stars had never looked so bright. The battle was over. Smoke still rose from the canyon, but the silence now was peaceful, not deadly. Malia stood at the edge of the cliff, wrapped in a clean human blanket, her silver blue skin glowing softly in the moonlight. Her eyes were fixed on the sky. Behind her, David stepped out of the medical tent. His arm was bandaged, and dust still clung to his face, but his eyes were warm. She's awake, the nurse had told him, and asking for you. He walked toward her slowly. You should be resting, he said gently. She didn't turn around. I couldn't sleep. The stars feel different tonight. David stood beside her, staring up too. They feel more alive, he said. No, she whispered. I feel more alive." They stood in silence for a while. Then Malia spoke again. "I thought I would die hunted, that my children would grow up afraid, never knowing safety, never knowing kindness." David looked at her. "And now?" She turned toward him. Her eyes shimmered with emotion. "Now I believe in tomorrow." Down below, the children played in the soft dirt with other human kids from the medical ship. They were laughing. For the first time since David had met them. They were laughing. Malia watched them with wonder. "They're different already," she said. "They're not afraid anymore." "Because they see how strong their mother is," David said. She looked at him. "No, because of you." David didn't speak for a moment. Then he said quietly, "You saved them first. You ran when they told you to leave them. You carried them through fire and hunger. You kept going even when the galaxy turned its back." She smiled faintly. "I kept going because of love." He nodded. "And now, I'd like to give them something back." He took her hand. Malia looked down at their joined fingers, surprised by the calm in his touch. "What are you doing?" she asked, voice soft. David stepped closer. "I'm asking for something impossible." She tilted her head. "I know I'm human," he said. "I know I'm not from your world, your customs, your tribe. But I want to stay. Not just as a friend or a protector. I want to be part of your family." Her eyes widened. "You mean—" "I want to be their father," he said. "And your partner, if you'll let me." For a long second she said nothing. Then slowly, she placed her palm on his chest. "You are already their father, David," she whispered. "And you are already more than I ever dared to hope for." Then she did something she hadn't done in years. She leaned in and kissed him, not out of fear. Not because she was lost, but because she was finally free. That evening, a special human officer came to speak with Malia and David. His name was Captain Renaud. "We've cleared the region," he said. "The hunters have retreated. But we expect more to come in the future." Malia stood tall. "Let them come." Renaud smiled. "That's what I wanted to hear. Now, there's a human colony on the moon of Varela 9. It's peaceful, open. They've offered you and the children a home. Permanent, if you wish it." David looked at her. Malia didn't hesitate. "Yes." 2 days later, they boarded the transport ship. As the engines hummed to life, Malia's children sat at the window staring out at the stars. Their eyes were wide, their faces full of wonder. David buckled them in, then sat beside Malia. "You okay?" he asked. She took a deep breath. "I never thought I'd leave that planet alive. Now I'm leaving with more than I ever dreamed." David smiled. "A second chance," she nodded. "A real future." On Varela 9, the sun was warm and golden. Trees swayed in soft wind. The colony was simple: green fields, clean homes, safe roads. David helped Malia unpack in their small new house. Her children ran outside chasing a floating ball gifted by a human neighbor. That night, David and Malia sat on their porch. The stars looked different here, too. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Do you think they'll remember the pain?" "They'll remember the journey," he said, "and that their mother fought through the stars for them." Malia smiled. "I never imagined a life like this." David took her hand again. "You gave it to yourself. I just helped light the path." Weeks passed. Malia began teaching at the local center, showing alien and human children stories from her people's history, not the broken laws, but the true heart, kindness, courage, love. David joined the colony's security team. They were building something together. One night, their daughter crawled onto David's lap and asked, "Are you really my papa now?" David looked into her glowing green eyes. "I always was." In the quiet of that peaceful world, the widow who was once hunted, who was once marked and rejected, now stood proud, loved, and unbroken. And in the skies above, stars blinked softly, not in sorrow, but in blessing. The end.